Kia ora and welcome to a new video from NZ Pocket Guide. Today I'm going to give you my best tips to plan the best trip ever in New Zealand. So make sure to stick around, and without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so if you are currently planning your trip to New Zealand, make sure to plan a realistic itinerary when coming to the country. Make sure to look at how long you have in New Zealand and how much can you realistically do during your time there. A lot of people tend to pack way too much in their itinerary and forget to enjoy the drives and all the sceneries that New Zealand have to offer. You're better off doing less and enjoying it more than trying to cram too much and have a hell of a time and also have no time for rescheduling. Because yes, you really will need to have a little bit of leeway to reschedule some tours because the weather is ever changing in New Zealand. Okay, next on my list we have something a little bit more boring, and that's the NZDT and the IVL. Those are two fees that if you're coming in New Zealand on a tourist visa, you will need to pay. The NZDT is able to be paid within an app that you can download on both iOS and Android, and the IVL is included with it. If you're coming to New Zealand on a cruise, the cruise team is going to be able to help you with that. Next up on our list, we have packing. You will need to pack quite light in New Zealand because it's not a country where you are going into just a single destination. It's a country that you travel a lot around. So the more you're packing, the more you will have to unpack and repack every single time you're changing location. Packing with versatility in mind will help you make the most out of the small space that you have in your luggage. Make sure that you pack a lot of layers so you are able to add a lot of layers onto yourself in the beginning of the day and shed them off throughout the days. It's the best way to tackle a full day traveling around New Zealand. Next up on our list, we have the best times to travel around New Zealand. Both Laura and I personally prefer to travel during the shoulder season, which are spring and autumn. But as a general rule of thumb, avoiding to travel in New Zealand from December to March is the best thing to do, because prices are at their highest and also the country is at its crowdest, although New Zealand doesn't really get that crowded. Next up on the list, we have travel directions. What about traveling from south to north? Although most people arrive in Auckland, a good idea is to actually fly straight to either Queenstown and Christchurch and pick up your rental campervan or car from there and drive all the way up north. As the vast majority of tourists are actually traveling from north to south, you will be able to go against the grain and see much less people on the roads and during your activities. Plus, you may be able to score a really good deal on car relocations or campervan relocations and be able to save a lot of money onto your transportation. Next up on the list, we're going to be talking about the drives. The drives in New Zealand are a core part of your New Zealand travel experience. They are absolutely fantastically stunning with amazing landscape to be taken in. So make sure that you allow extra time for each of your drives so you can stop along the road and take some amazing pictures. There is also the fact that, well, when driving in New Zealand, you will encounter conditions that you probably are unfamiliar with. One-way bridges, narrow gravel roads, one-way roads, and the GPS may not be the best. So don't rely on your Google GPS or Google Map when traveling around New Zealand. Download the proper GPS map that is able to be accessed offline, such as map.me. It's not sponsored, it's just a map that we do like using. Finally, our last tip is about sandflies and the sun. Sandflies in New Zealand are quite prominent, especially in some areas such as the Abel Tasman National Park and the West Coast. So you want to make sure that you do have a decent insect repellent, but maybe go for something natural so you are able to both save the planet and yourself from harmful chemicals. The sun is also pretty harsh in New Zealand. The country has some of the highest UV ratings in the world, not unlike Australia. So make sure that you slap on a decent amount of sunscreen pretty much every day and you will reapply it regularly, especially after a swim. Alright, so that's everything for me. There is much more information for you on nzpocketguide.com, and the whole team is joining me in wishing you the best time ever in New Zealand.